Hey, what's poppin', everybody? As you can see, it's been way too fucking long since I've had a haircut. I'm out here looking like Momonosuke from One Piece, you know? But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about The Dutch House by Anne Patchett? Patchett? I don't know. I don't do my research, due diligence. What is that? This is YouTube. We're raw dogging it out here, alright? So The Dutch House is a book that follows a family post-World War II that lives in a ridiculously gaudy Dutch mansion. This book was up for a lot of awards after it came out originally in 2019. Apparently enough that fucking Tom Hanks narrates the audiobook. Tom fucking Hanks. Seriously, if that doesn't, I don't even need to say anything else. That should convince you. Go read this book right now. Fucking Tom Hanks. Anyways, while the title of the book might be about the house, like many stories that are ostensibly named after or technically about an inanimate object, it's really following the people whose lives that object touches, in this case, the family that lives inside this massive Dutch house. The story is the portrait of a life, or in this case, a set of lives, which explains the cover, and the cover makes more sense if you actually read the book, but it's apt because it essentially mirrors what the story is really about. So the book follows the son of this family, Danny, throughout various stages of his life. He's the main look into this world. When it comes to a book or any kind of story that is really just about a set of characters living their lives, the biggest compliment I can give it is that I felt transported. I felt like I was there with this family living in this house. I felt like I was the unspoken fifth member of the family. I was thinking there for a second because yeah, there's four. There's a mother, a father, a sister, and a brother. So whoever you are, you will also be the fifth member of this family living inside Danny's head. But yeah, it does what it says on the tin. The characters feel fully realized. Their interactions and relationships feel genuine. The directions of their lives feel logical and inevitable, and yet manage to capture the unexpected nature of life and the twists and turns that it brings. It's just a complete look at someone's life. That really feels like the best way to describe it. It's just a very complete story. Now, under normal circumstances, that would be enough to just make this a great book to recommend. But the real reason I want to talk about it is something a little bit more on a meta level. It's about how this book made me think and reflect after I put it down. So here's what I mean. I think a lot of us can relate to the feeling of losing someone or falling out of love with someone or just being distanced from someone who was once close to us. Not in the physical sense, not in the sense that they're now gone or they died or something terrible happened, but just in the sense that they drifted apart. You might have a close friend, someone who is dear to you, someone who you share cherished and intimate memories with, and eventually you come to the realization that it's not going to stay that way. They're not always going to be around. They're not always going to be a part of your life. At some point, some kind of distance has formed between you, and a gap has developed that is insurmountable. I don't mean to make it sound too dramatic because usually it isn't. Usually it's not anyone's fault that this happens. People's lives take different directions. Sometimes we are close to people because we are physically around them, but we are not actually alike. And as time passes, we come to that realization and our lives go in different directions and a distance forms and it's no one's fault. But regardless, it is something that happens to more or less everyone at some point. It's something that we all have to come to terms with at some point or another. And even when it's no one's fault, it can still be painful. I mention this because this book managed to recapture some of those feelings for me, which is another compliment for the quality of the writing. The fact that I was transported to the point where I felt this level of intimacy with these characters at all is a testament to the story that this book told. But at the end of the day, the actual relationship that I formed emotionally with the main character is kind of complicated. I started out completely on his side, completely rooting for him. He's a kid, he's young. Younger people tend to be easier to root for, and the book does a great job of putting you on his side. I'm not going to say in what context you're on his side, but it does a great job of putting you there. He's a likable kid, he's easy to root for. There's no reason to dislike him, really. But as time goes on, both within the book and within Danny's life, I started to resent him a little bit. I started to dislike the person he became. I started to miss how he used to be when he was younger.
You've changed, and not entirely for the better, Bilbo Baggins.
And yet, I completely understood why he was the way he was and how he came to be this way, even though I didn't like it. Which is kind of how it is a lot of the time in real life, you know? I really started to hate his callousness, his selfishness, his disregard for the people around him, and the way he would be able to look at situations only through the lens of how they would benefit him. You know, it wasn't like supervillain level stuff at any point. It wasn't exaggerated or unrealistic. It was completely within the realm of possibility for how a real person might look at things. And yet, I just couldn't stand it anyways. When you've grown up with someone, it can be a sobering experience to come to terms with who they really are as a fully fledged adult. It can take time and it can cause some emotional turmoil to come to that realization, to reconcile what you're seeing with the emotional attachment and memories you've developed during your formative years. And yet this is an experience that this book successfully managed to recapture. I don't even know if it was supposed to do that, although I think it probably is, because on this level of storytelling, I don't think anything is an accident. It probably was done with this exact intent. Among other things, there's probably other interpretations in mind that Ann Patchett had, but this is my interpretation, and it ended up sending me on this whole other journey of self-reflection, of reminiscing and thinking about and reflecting on the people who were in my life at various points who are no longer there, why that happened, how that happened, where they might be now, and how I feel about who they were at the time, who they are now, how our relationship changed and eventually kind of dissipated over the years. Maybe it is just me, and I can't say with any certainty that it isn't just me, but I appreciate that this book made me think about these things. You know, I appreciate the meta journey that this book sent me on, and that's really the main reason it stuck with me, even though the story is still great on its own terms, absolutely. In terms of character-driven stories or character drama, slice-of-life stories, whatever you want to call them, this book does exactly what it should do. Like I said earlier, it's well written, characters are great, dialogue is great, interactions are great, relationships are great, pacing's great, everything is great. Like, it's just a great book all around. But, you know, just saying that feels kind of empty. It doesn't feel like I was adding anything to just say that. The personal reflection that I had as a result of reading this, I thought was a little bit more interesting. And I don't know if everyone else will get the same thing I got out of it, but, you know, that's my message to the void of YouTube. I hope it was worth your time. And again, Tom Hanks. So, yeah, I hope you had a great day, week, month, year. Hope you got vaccinated or are getting vaccinated soon so we can all go outside again. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? Let me know if there's anything you want me to make a video on. I'm always down for more video ideas. Listen, if I run out of ideas, I might have to start farming low-effort reaction content, because that's what's popping on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? This shit takes effort. I have to read books and then talk about them. You know how much easier it is to watch a trailer in one take and be like, you know, that was cool, that wasn't so cool, and then upload it. It takes like 30 minutes, bro. You don't even have to edit anything. Anyways, I'm done for the day. Peace.